Welcome, Off-Season After Dark fans. Glad to have you here. I apologize for no show last week. I initially was going to have a Wisconsin episode, but Matt and I both got sick. So now we're here today for episode 32 with Vinny Hardy from BleavInKentucky. We're hitting another one of our SEC brother schools who, we haven't had a guest on before, and happy to, dive into the Wildcats and the momentous offseason they've had. You've seen a lot of changes and a lot of positive stuff. So, Vinny, thanks for being here. Appreciate having you.
Hey, Mike, glad to be here. Appreciate you having me on, man. This is cool.
Absolutely. So, tell the guests a little bit where they can find you online, what got you into Kentucky sports, and how long you've been doing this for.
My name is Vinny Hardy. Born and raised in Kentucky. Live outside of Knoxville now, but there's nothing orange about me. But way back, I don't know, 2014, 2015, I was the guy that would, you call into the different call-in shows and, you like that kind of thing. So living in Knoxville, I would still call in to them and, especially when they would play Kentucky and go back and forth and that whole thing. So when podcasting became a thing, and then like iHeartRadio, and you could actually listen to sports shows about Kentucky, even though you're living out of the state. Like, oh, cool. Because, at that time, I knew more about Tennessee than I did Kentucky because that's all I heard all day.
It was just about back then. It was so much about exposure and where you lived.
Yeah, it was local Knoxville sports, Jim Rome from 12 to 3, back to local Knoxville sports,
Yeah.
And so then, started the podcast and some blogging and listening to Kentucky shows and hearing guests and things from home. And so Cameron Mills had a radio show, former player that played basketball for Kentucky, had a website, did some writing for him, had done some blogging before that, and then just kind of got into the podcast space. I still have a podcast, the first one, Cats Talk Wednesday, that I do. Started Believe in Kentucky, got on with the Believe Network about 6 years ago and hosted that one. And you can see there at Believe in Kentucky on Twitter, BLEAV.com. And Cole Park is a young fellow, just finished journalism school at UK. He covers Kentucky for the Cats Pause. We co-host the shows each week. And
awesome.
You follow us on Twitter. We've got a link tree for Believe in Kentucky that'll lead you to the Instagram and the TikTok and the YouTube and the Apple Podcast and Spotify and all that, where you can get access to every single episode. Just recorded an episode before coming on with you with UKDB Ty Bryant, so it was cool to talk with him, man. That was a cool young fellow, man. He's enjoyable to talk with.
Awesome. No, it's always fun when you get the players on the team, especially for you guys, one of the few veterans on the team that will still be back from last year. So
yeah. I was asking, I'm not trying to spoil it because it'll be up tomorrow, so feel free to check it out. But I was asking if he was the old head, is that, I said, is it old head? Is it unk status? What is your position? He said, no, I'm always big brother. I'm always big brother. No old head. Don't call me this old stuff. I'm always the big brother. So that was a fun little moment, but he is definitely one of the few veteran guys.
On defense, him and Humphrey Grace are the only two I can think of that still might be coming back. Yeah, there aren't many.
Yeah, it is. There's not many.
Let's jump into that though. So, last year, Cats went 5-7, and it seemed like the writing on the wall, had been there for Stoops to some extent. In the moment, going through last year when it got to the end, were your thoughts that they needed to make a change or that Stoops should have gotten another year? It's tough when you have a guy that's probably your best coach ever to make that move and, how much he raised the bar, but things had gotten stale as well. Like there's two sides to that.
Exactly. And that's kind of where I was. I mean, going into last year, and I said the best I could see them doing was 5-7. So that's the absolute best I can see. And I likened it to going to the doctor. You know that you're sick or got some issues, and you get the test results and you're just waiting for the bad news of the test results. That's how I felt about the season. And unfortunately, I was hoping I was going to be wrong, but unfortunately, that's how it kind of played out. You're 2-5, you get to 5-5, and then it falls off the rails again, and you end up with a blowout to Louisville. Mark Stoops, you mentioned the highs, the raising of the bar, because as Kentucky fans historically, grew up losing to Tennessee year after year after year, Florida year after year after year. The last 10-win season prior to Stoops happened in 1977. They won their 10th game of the season that year. I was 16 days old. So I went back and looked up the schedule from 1977. They went 10-1. November 19th, they beat, I think, Tennessee or somebody in the season. I was born November 3rd. November 19th, they win their 10th game, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm barely 2 weeks old, Mike. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm looking at the schedule now. Yeah.
And so for Stoops to bring 2 9-win regular seasons, cap it with a bowl win to get 10, Kentucky's only had 4 10-win seasons. 1951 when they beat Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl, 1977, and then the 2 under Stoops. So to finally see that in my lifetime, to flip on your Fine Bomb or College Football Live, and they're talking about Kentucky respectfully and mentioning them in the big boy conversation, that's cool to see. And Stoops brought that. Rich Brooks to a point with some 7-5, 8-5 seasons, and then Stoop even more so. But then for it to kind of get up there, and then you saw the fall and the struggles and the constant offensive side, coordinators shuffling throughout the entire tenure. Never could really develop a quarterback on your own. It was always in the portal and trying to have to patch it in, and that kind of led to the undoing. So it had gotten stale. I know I'm rambling.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
It kind of got to where you didn't see them being able to climb back up and regain what they just had a few years ago. So that parting of the ways was just kind of time.
Yeah. Yeah, you talk about like the offensive coordinator and that shuffling there, the back and forth of Liam Cohen. He was good, but it was also not stable because he was, position coach leaving, coming back, and then there was that slingshotting.
And Stoops was always because everybody always thought that he kind of was controlling or hamstringing the OCs and wanting to run the ball, wanting the 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And there was times he was asked about it, and he said, "No, I give them control. I don't bother them." And it always felt like he was still kind of having his fingerprints on it. Because you look at Shannon Dawson, who I mean, the talent level wasn't quite where it needed to be while he was there, but look what he's doing at Miami, and he went
what
on
he did
and
at Houston. He was legit at Houston.
Left and had success. Cohen, his first year with the Jaguars, and now look, he kind of resurrected Trevor Lawrence's career because he was kind of, on thin ice, and not everybody's wondering if he's a bust. And now so, and then Bush Hamlin didn't work out. Rich Cangarello, so many guys came.
Eddie Gran was just kind of, isn't he back in a off the field role?
Yeah. Okay. And have to credit Eddie too, though, with the year that everybody got hurt. He just ran the ball with Lynn Bowden, and they still won 7 games, went to a bowl game, and to do that on the fly, to retool everything.
I've said multiple times to people, Mark Stoops going to a bowl game with Lynn Bowden at QB is one of the most impressive coaching jobs I've ever seen.
And then won it. Let him throw a pass to win it at the end against Virginia Tech. Unbelievable. And Bowden was a hair away from getting kicked out of the game. They had that fight before the game.
That's right. Yeah.
Just inside or outside that 90-minute pregame rule, or else who knows what they would have done if he's kicked out before the game starts.
Oh God, I can't even imagine who would have.
Shudder to think about that, man.
Yeah. Because even getting down to him at that point, you were you were near the bottom of the barrel QB.
Absolutely. Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. For sure. And everybody knew it was Lynn Bowden, and they still couldn't stop it. The offensive line was still in the big blue wall. You still had it rolling. It was still, had been built up and had that reputation and was doing great things. And so that was a fun stretch, man.
It was. So I remember I went to the game that year where they played at South Carolina, and that was before Bowden came in. That was the one game where Sawyer Smith started, and you knew he wasn't going to be the guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you watch it, it's like, oh, they are not going to win games if this dude is at QB. And sure enough, they made the change and it worked out.
Yeah. I think they put Lynn in at the end. And
Sawyer Smith or Sawyer Sutton? I forget.
Smith. Yeah, Smith.
Yeah. First time. Yeah.
And they started mounting a few. It was too little too late when they put him in at the end, and they got a drive and like a garbage touchdown or something. And they were like, oh, maybe we have something. And then you saw the rest of the season what it became for them.
Yep. No, you're right about that. Yeah. But I mean, O-line wise, they were. Logan Stenberg was pretty good, and they had some decent O-linemen in that group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so we did get off on a tangent there, but I always like that. So it agreed, it was probably time to move on from Stoops.
Yeah.
And then when that happened, it seemed like you guys had one of the quicker and more efficient searches in the country, that you had identified Will Stein and knew he was going to be the guy.
Yeah.
It seemed like that moved pretty quick.
It did. The talk was him or Heartline of Ohio State. Both kind of had some ties to Kentucky. Yeah. Mike was still here, kind of helping quarterbacks out. He was working with the guys here. So everybody thought, well, maybe he'll bring his brother. But Will Stein from Louisville, the story, parents, Kentucky fans, he wanted to play here. He ended up playing for Louisville because he wasn't offered. So it's happened, moved very quickly. He's young. He's confident. He's come from Oregon. We saw UTSA.
Yeah.
Offensively, it's going to be a complete change as far as what we've been used to under Stoops. What we just talked about, the coordinators and the quarterback shuffling, and there were attempts to develop quarterback. Patrick Toles and Drew Barker. Drew Barker got hurt. He could have maybe been a homegrown kid that you could have had for multiple years, but then it just, for whatever reason, you had to get a quarterback every year. Will Levis was back-to-back years, but then you change coordinators because Cohen leaves, and then this Gangarella. So the quarterback position, I think we approached totally different. The offense will be completely different.
Vandergrift was a guy that was just a miss. He, he had been a high recruit, but never really played much until you guys got him, and just ended up being so.
Yeah. So it's going to be the way offense is handled, period. It's going to be completely different than what we've been used to for the past 13 years with Mark Stoops, with Will Stein. And he's young. He's 36.
Yep.
And, he's been around. He knows what greatness looks like, under Lanning at Oregon and all the other coaches he's worked under. So it's going to be fun to see. To me, you have to account that he's first-year head coach. It's going to bite him at some points during the season because it's just you've never been a coach before. But I think it's Stoops raised it, and he's just coming in trying to raise it to another level. The recruiting, the targets, the people he's going after, and the quarterbacks he's going after, the way he's trying to construct it it's going to be interesting to see. And he's on a mission, and he's ready to go, man.
And that he will have to be, because that schedule, it's interesting next year because you don't have the two non-con games early on. You guys are always in the boat of the Gamecocks, where your conference schedule is getting done earlier because you have the rivalry, as a non-con game. But Bama week 2, A&M week 3, tough games for anybody.
Absolutely. It's going to be the Jay Bateman reunion game with his old squad because he came from there. I don't know. You're going to find out early. It's it's not the same Alabama, but it's still Alabama.
Yeah,
it's
still, I mean, yeah.
Still an Alabama we haven't beat since 1997. So
okay, it's a long time. Yeah. And they have a lot of stuff to sort out themselves. You know, they lost a lot of guys, but in terms of the mood around the program, people have to be pretty excited now because, like you talked about, you know, the being a younger guy, dynamic, confident, you know, with Stein, and then the offseason was great. I mean, the portal was a very successful thing for them this offseason. They brought in lots of guys who, you know, should be players right away. You know, QB, running back, receiver. You're bringing in guys that should be good.
Yeah, it was so. It's funny. You talked about how things kind of got stale with Stoops towards the end, and you know, even you beat Florida, but they already on the interim coach, and you know they're already a train wreck when you beat them. So
yeah,
it's great to beat them, but you didn't. Yeah, you know, so you finish as you're going 5-7. Everybody was just looking longingly to basketball. Couldn't wait for year 2 of Mark Pope. And now the basketball team is struggling and underperforming and got, you know, a lot of injuries and, you know, lost some games they shouldn't lose. Everybody can't wait for football. Can't wait for the spring game. Yeah. And the flip has just been hilarious, man.
That is interesting. Yeah, I didn't think about that. But coaching-wise, I mean, apart from Stein, you know, you talked about Jay Bateman coming in from A&M, you know, a veteran guy who has been around a lot of places. Joe Sloan, you know, offensive side of the ball, a guy who, you know, was at LSU for a number of years, coached Jalen Daniels at La Tech before that, where they have had a lot of successful offenses. Now, one thing I don't know, and you might, is Stein or Sloan going to be the play caller on offense? Have they said?
I think he had said that Sloan was.
Okay.
He wasn't going to try to split his focus.
Makes sense.
As the head coach. You know, he want to bring in a guy that he trusts. Still going to have input, but, you know, he was kind of going to let Joe have that. Presser. Yeah.
Makes sense. You know, especially as a first-year head coach.
Yeah.
I can see where it would be tough to stop doing that, but also there's a lot on your plate. You know, you have to be the true CEO and monitor everything that's going on. So that's probably right. But I mean, some of the other coaches they brought in, you know, Alan Brown at, with the D-backs was at Cal last year, Florida before that. He was a guy who I like that hire. And then Cutter left, which on the O-line, been with Stein for multiple stops at Oregon and UTSA. And then Price, the receivers coach, was at UTSA before with Stein, stayed there with Jeff Traylor.
Yeah.
And then Washington was the last guy, the edges, outside linebackers. So Ohio State, UCLA, you know, impressive coach. So they certainly have some coaches who very impressive track records.
Yeah, for sure. And I think no matter what field you're in, everybody maybe wants to look down on youth. You know, the older people want to look down. Leftwich is 26 years old, so that has been a talking point. You know, because this guy is just so young. He's barely so. And Stein doesn't care. I think he was asked about it, and he's like, "What?"
I'm sure he doesn't. Yeah,
and the same thing. So I'm sure Leftwich doesn't either. And you know, get in there and coach and show what you can do. Everybody's going to forget that hey, you're 26 years old.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's nothing else to talk about because there haven't been any games. But
exactly.
So it's he's the coach is 36 and it's the O-line coach is 26. Oh my God, that's kind of.
They've certainly been winning the offseason, though. I'll give them that.
Yeah, it's excitement is really building. You know that, and this will be the first time they have kind of a real spring game. It's April the 18th. They just announced the date.
Okay.
The past few years has just kind of been go through the motions type. Here we are. So, you flash back to Stoops' first year. It was a huge crowd for that spring game. Stein he's been on the record. I think his introductory press conferences. He said the only way to get better football is to play football. So we're going to have a spring game. And, we were talking with Ty Bryant about that, just a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's not sure how it's going to operate, but, looking forward to it and all that stuff. So it's going to be – they're doing some stadium renovations and things of that nature, but whoever can get into Kroger Field will definitely be there because everybody is chomping at the bit to see the new era.
Mm-hmm. I know Marshall's is the week before that, the 11th. So that's when they're doing their spring game. But looking at that roster, boy, is it different than it was last fall. And that's probably for the better, just looking at, the portal and, where they finished in a lot of those portal rankings. But, going back to that, starting at the top, I suppose, I was a little discouraged when Cutter Boley initially left because I like what I saw in him. He did some good things, and you're losing him to another decent program.
Mm-hmm.
But they replaced him with Kenny Minchie, transfer from Notre Dame, a guy who battled for the job there last year, has never been, the full-time starter in college, but was a high recruit, top 15 QB nationally, a Tennessee guy originally. That's his home state. So what are the, feelings around Wildcat land with Minchie and bringing him in as the QB?
I think the excitement is there. I think there's a level of trust that he kind of has earned because of his work with Bo Allen and everything he did out at Oregon. There was a little disappointment, or you hate to see it from the standpoint of Cutter Boley being from Kentucky and showing flashes, and the thought of, Wish Hamden didn't really pan out. Another OC under Stoops says, maybe if this kid stays, and then you have Stein's track record and you blend the two together. So it was hope that he would stay. It didn't work out. He went to Arizona State. But in my opinion, quarterback should probably be the least worried about position under Stein because, the expertise, the knowledge, whatever he's comfortable with, if he was cool letting him walk, thank you, Cutter. I wish you all the best. I hate you're not here as a Kentucky kid, but I think the quarterback position will be always cared for, the priority, the knowledge, the insight, the expertise that he's accrued on his coaching journey to become a head coach. I'm not going to worry about quarterback. And I think a lot of people feel that way because that's kind of his position, like a Beamer. You mentioned you went to South Carolina. They're always good in special teams.
They are.
He get it from his dad. They always you shouldn't have to worry about special teams based on the track record of what Beamer ball from Frank to Shane has become.
No, it's a good point.
I feel the same way about the quarterback at Kentucky. What Stein has done, even though he hasn't done it here in Kentucky yet, I'm not going to worry about quarterback until I'm given a reason to under him.
Okay. Then that, running back is where I was one of the most impressed with, position-wise for them. I mean, you bring in one guy from each of the teams in the Red River rivalry. We had C.J. Baxter from Texas, Javante Barnes, Oklahoma. They're both solid players. I think you have to feel pretty good about that position right now if you are the Wildcats. And on top of that, Jason Patterson saw the field a little bit last year, not a ton, but you're okay with him being your third guy.
Yeah, he's been one you've been hearing his name for years. And then you bring in the other two, and Stein's whole thing: feed the studs, get the guys you want to have the ball in we hear it all the time, get guys the ball in space, get them in good matchups. Putting those guys out there to be able to do that is, you like the look of it, you like it on paper, and looking forward to seeing it happen for real. But yeah, those are two good acquisitions. The home run ability, this offense, the big play capability, the way you kind of see how he's wanting it to be.
Definitely. Yeah. I think and it especially with those two, with the skill sets they have, it looks like he's trying to build an offense in the mold of what they had at Oregon and UTSA, where you're going to have, try to spread, open up those running lanes in the middle and create space for your guys when the ball's in their hands.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. Then, moving on to receivers, another position where they lost a lot of guys. Law was just done, but then Gilmore went to Baylor. So you had to portal, and Nick Anderson, who's, familiar face for all our viewers in the SEC, was at LSU last year. Mm-hmm. But then a guy who's not in, Shane Carr, who was at Southern Utah. And, I pay attention to FCS, but it's not like I'm watching all these games. But you hear who's good, and, okay, we heard he was pretty good. Then you look at the stats, and I was like, whoa, he had almost 90 targets last year. That's a lot of targets. I mean, that tells you something about how much they were feeding him the ball. So bringing in those two, along with Daisy from UAB, I mean, that's another position where you got to work on that cohesion with Minchie, and, everybody's new, but that's not wholly unique in college football now, where a lot of position units are going to be new in the transfer portal era.
Yeah. And this was, forget who it was asking me which position was I kind of most interested in with the new change. And wide receiver is where I'm most interested in, because I'm not, like I just said, I'm not worried about the quarterback. I'm not worried about everything Stein is going to do or things needs to be done at the quarterback position. I said, my first look is going to be, who's going to be catching the passes? We got the quarterback position solidified. Okay. I'm looking at the pass catchers and what we're doing there. And this room is entirely new, like you said. And on that Nick Anderson thing, just the Kentucky LSU back and forth for the past few years, it's been crazy. Barry Brown went there. Kelvin Joseph and Derek Rosenthal came to Kentucky like when the portal was new. Matt House went there. He left Kentucky and went there. If you watch the SEC story, the Miracles thing, they had the Bluegrass Miracle. We had the Mardi Gras Miracle in basketball. The two heartbreaking victories we have against each other in each sport. It's just the Kentucky LSU stuff is
That's
weird.
A good point. Yeah. I never thought about it going both ways like that. That's interesting. Tight end, granted, it's only a one starting position, but maybe where they have the most continuity with Willie Rodriguez coming back, who's a good player, I think.
Yeah.
Decent amount of catches last year. Good, or I should expand on that. Can both, is valuable in both the pass and the run game, is a decent blocker.
Physical guy.
Yeah.
And I think he's kind of ready to blossom. A lot of Kentucky fans for years just kept, when was the tight end going to get used? When's the tight end going to get the ball? Going back to CJ Conrad and, all those guys and these good tight ends that just never could seemingly get into the mix. It's cool. Willie, I think, has a lot of potential, like you said.
Yeah.
Special teams, he's made plays. The game against Mississippi State down there when Kentucky won. He was setting the tone on special teams. And in this offense, you always need that security blanket, and you have all this speed on the outside, and these threats at running back, and I think Willie might just kind of benefit and eat. And you have another Caddis brother coming in. You lose Josh, you got his little brother coming in, so there's potential there for.
I
Willie,
didn't know. I didn't know that little brother was coming in. Okay,
yeah.
very cool. Yeah,
and I know we'll get to it. On the other side, you got Trevor Wallace's little brother that Tavion is coming in for linebackers.
Okay,
so a couple of little
that one I had heard of. Yeah, you said for receiver that was the position you were going to be the most interested in and maybe worried about. For me, it's the O-line that we're going to get to now. 5 new starters. That's no matter who you are, portal or no portal, new coaching staff for returners, replacing all 5 of your guys up front is probably going to cause some growing pains. Now, they did well in the portal there. I mean, Lance Hurd from Tennessee, Colton Price from Baylor, both good players, Shabola from Ohio State, but just how will everybody gel together? I think for maybe more so than any other position group, the spring could be very valuable for them in terms of gelling together and getting a rhythm with each other and, getting that communication system down.
Yeah, for sure.
So on.
You mentioned good players, and I think Hurd will work out, but I mean, we're optimistic. But Mincy came from Tennessee, and that didn't work. That was a miss just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I think Hurd has a chance to be better, and like you mentioned, that is probably more important than that's the most important. But even though I said receiver, O-line, if Mincy can't stay upright, it doesn't matter who the receivers are either in the grand scheme of things. But that we'll see how Cutter and the staff coaches them up. So that's just...
especially that's one of them. We talked about the early in the year schedule because Bama, Texas A&M, South Carolina, you got good pass rushers on all of those squads. I mean, you're not going to be able to, be a sieve back there, or else Minchie's going to be on his back. Yeah.
Your Gamecocks the past. This series has swung so crazy.
Yes, unbelievable. Yeah.
And the past 2 years, last year, year before with Brock, the expectations immediately went down when they played South Carolina, and all those sacks and just the offensive line, and you're like, oh.
And at that point, we didn't know the Gamecocks were going to be as good as they ended up being in 24 either. We still thought, hey, these teams both are probably middle of the road in the conference. Turns out that was kind of accelerated the Gamecocks, and Kentucky, took a step back. Yeah.
Ships passing in the night. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure. So to your point, you gotta hit the ground running. Abba Selm is a name that's, he's been around. He was there last year. Everybody is new. But you got to have as much continuity as possible because you're jumping right into SEC play immediately. So.
Yeah, that's that makes it a lot tougher for sure. Then on the defensive side of the ball, we talked about McKees, Humphrey, Grace coming back, but I thought it was interesting there because at QB, receiver, running back, you're getting transfers from big name schools who were big recruits that, were in position battles, didn't quite work out. Mm-hmm. D-line were kind of the inverse, where you're getting Wiseman from South Alabama, Antonio Berry, Harkless from Purdue, Tyler Thomas, another South Alabama guys that have produced and played a lot, but at schools that are not in the Power Four. So different model, but clearly that model has worked for Kurt Signetti's one guy to say there, who targeting production at a lower level versus potential in guys at higher level schools that haven't played yet.
Yeah, and for Kentucky to, when you see the bigger name guys come in, you always get your hopes up and like, oh, cool, they left such and such to come here, and it's been a mixed bag. Jacquez Jones from Ole Miss at linebacker, and I mentioned the guys from LSU earlier, and there's been times where it hasn't worked out. So if you go to a smaller school where a guy is balled out and is ready to take that next step, that can be beneficial too. It just depends. There's no exact science. It's just like the draft at the NFL. There's no tried and true way to do it, but you just got to do your homework and see if it fits your system and see if it all matches up. And
one guy I thought would work better for them that didn't was Gavin Wimsatt. I thought he would do better. He just did, and being an in-state guy, it made a lot of sense him coming back from Rutgers. But
so hopefully Harkles is better. He's from Lexington, so he's coming back home as well. So hopefully it goes better for him than did Gavin. Just the completing of the passes, the completion percentage was always low. And it just, big strong kid,
and he might, in hindsight, maybe he just wasn't a P4 player because he went to Jacksonville State, which was a perfect system for his skill set, and even there he ended up getting beat out at the end of the year by Creel, a younger guy. So just one of those things. But D-line, new group there. Linebacker, you had mentioned Tavion Wallace, I believe, coming over from Arkansas, big pickup for them. And then Bo Barnes from Texas, two SEC guys. But the guys they needed, because even if we weren't in, the portal era, both Afari and Rayner were done anyway, I think eligibility-wise. So you were going to look different there.
And going to D-line, you got one of the few holdovers on staff, Anwar Stewart, the D-line coach, is still going to be there.
That's good.
To coach the D-line. Former player, mentioned beating Alabama. He was on the 97 team that beat Alabama as a player. He had, I think, a scoop score or made a big play defensively to turn that game. So having him back to coach the D-line is cool. I think Stein was really glad to see him be able to stay and, be a continuity, kind of a bridge from the old to the new, so to speak.
That's good. Yeah, his name didn't pop for me, but it makes sense because I'm usually just looking at new coaches and guys that change jobs. So the ones that remain are not popping on my radar as much. That's good to know. And they were, they've had a solid position group. With him. So
Deion Walker go to the Bills under his tutelage, and this last year he was hurt, so he didn't have as good a year as his previous year, but still he went to Buffalo and made some plays as a rookie for them, and so that was, he can put that. I coached this kid. And
is Jaden Williams still there? The guy that started at Wyoming and went to Kentucky.
I
wasn't sure. I knew he played a bit last year. I don't know how much, but I remember he was a guy that at the time had popped when he transferred, but I wasn't sure if he stuck around or not. But it was at Wyoming before. At linebacker, that'll be, we talked about some of the guys they have coming in there, and I believe that, I might be wrong, I think Bateman is going to coach the inside linebackers as well, in addition to being D coordinator. But please correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I thought Bateman was going to do that.
I think so. I'm not 100% certain.
Okay.
On that,
I thought he was going to coach the inside backers. But, with the two, Barnes and Wallace both, 4-star recruits coming, out of high school to other SEC schools. And now you have Sam Green and Godfrey both coming back. Green, started his career at USC.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another guy that was a big recruit. Both of them were. Godfrey was as well. Who
now was son of Randall at Georgia. Back for us old guys that remember. His dad played for Georgia and played a little bit for the Cowboys. But I liked what I saw a little bit out of Grant, and looking forward to what he does this coming year too.
Is he? Where did he go to high school? Is he a Kentucky guy?
Grant, no.
Okay.
Where's he from? No, he's from Georgia. Yeah, his dad
makes sense.
Dad played for Georgia, and Randall was a great athlete.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I know the dad. I didn't know that was his dad, but I do know who you're talking about. Yeah, definitely. That's. I appreciate you telling me that.
Yeah, he was a great player for Georgia, and they've had a long line of dudes down there, man.
Yeah. Looking at that position though, that linebacker, for not having a ton of guys who've played college ball, that group looks pretty solid to me in just looking at them on paper.
It was kind of thin last year, but I'm with you. It looks, the start of spring practice and some, start of where it is now. We'll see how it holds up, but I like the look of it going in.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think so. Yeah, it's and depth wise, that you have some returners who will be the depth guys, which can be good because the system, if depending on how much the system's changing or not. You talked a little bit about the D-backs before, and so that's another one. I'm looking at the depth chart I'm looking at, gives them an A+ for depth at defensive back. So I won't spoil too much of your Ty Bryant episode, but you brought in multiple guys from P4 schools, Aaron Gates and Jordan Castell, both from Florida, and then Jesse Anderson from Pitt, who are guys that good chance they'll see the field right away. Who else at D-back are some people we should look at? That could be guys.
I still like Teron Nichols. I mean, he's been there. If I think back to the game Kentucky won at Ole Miss year before last, and they threw him out there as a true freshman, and kind of sink or swim moment. He was able to hold his own and make some plays. He's experienced now. I still think that's a guy that you can still get some good things from. I do believe. Mr. Addison as well.
No, okay, yep. Addison was I recall him. Yeah. Then that's most of the roster. Kicker wise, they returned, and then punter. I honestly have zero idea who the punter will be, or if they're one of the schools who is perpetually playing the Pro Kick Australia cycle, which is not a bad way to do things in the way we are now.
Is Wilson Berry still around? I thought he
was the one I looked at. He was still on the roster.
There.
Yep.
And Jason Coway is the backup kicker, I do believe. Jacob Coway.
Yes, he is. Coway was back. Wilson Berry he was on the depth chart I had, but they
because he's been there for a while. I thought he was. I mistakenly thought he was done, but
yeah. As Steve often says on our group show, eligibility is a myth, so we don't know.
Ain't that the truth, man?
Yeah.
Ever since COVID, man, you got super seniors and all that stuff, and
and Chambliss gets another year, Aguilar doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah, that was. The more you think you got it figured out, the further you're off base you are, man. So. Yeah, going through it in Knoxville about that, and
I'm sure they are. Should we talk about quarterbacks of the SEC or the preseason power rankings? I'll let you pick, Vinny.
Maybe power rankings. I'm good either way. Whatever you want to go, man.
Okay, let's we'll look at power. So this is took this off of Twitter X, not my original one, but I think they're doing the Big Blue Nation a little dirty on this one. I'm not just saying that because you're here, but I wouldn't have them last. For me, it'd be tough not to put Arkansas at last. I wasn't inspired by their hire. They were awful on defense last year. For the second year in a row, they lost most of their roster. And for me, it's tough to see Arkansas turn it around much in year one of Ryan Silverfield.
I agree with all that. I don't know if they just flipped the coin between Kentucky and Arkansas because they were like, well, Kentucky was awful on offense, and the new coach and Will Stein, unproven, and you can kind of lay the same stuff out for both.
You can.
Maybe
That's fair. Yeah.
Maybe, and I'm a Kentucky guy, but I can see why they would do that. And if you think about last season, and I mean, look, Stoops is gone and it's a coaching change, but we were battling out. Cole and I on Believe in Kentucky would talk about, who's the worst team in the league? Is it us? Is it Arkansas? How does it, because we know we were in contention for that.
Yeah. Heck, my Gamecocks only won one conference game too.
But so. who they get that all against?
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
That thanks us for keeping y'all from going 0-8.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I do think like Mississippi State, as poor as they've been, I wouldn't put them last because they did make progress in Levy's year 2.
Yeah,
and if Levy's a decent coach, you expect year 3 to be a year where a lot of that progress happens, and you make that jump in years 3 and 4. So,
I mean, they gave Tennessee a fight there to start with early in the season.
They gave Texas a fight like you guys did.
Yeah. So they,
and I think there's also promise with Kamario Taylor.
Yeah. So, did they finally beat Arkansas? Is that who they finally got their first win against?
Mississippi State's last year, their one conference win was against Arkansas.
So
it was.
That's why there's a coin flip between us and them last year. Now it's up to Kentucky, and the way we've talked about it just now, the way things looks like they're poised to pull themselves out of the cellar. Now we've got to see it happen and play out, but. We like what they've done in assembling everything. Now it's how will it shake out on the field.
One of the teams I'm low on for next year is Auburn. I think Golish is a good coach. I think they'll improve, but I don't know in his year 1 next year if they're going to be that good. Like, to me, they imported a good chunk of that roster from USF. And they were good in the American, but I don't think that's an SEC roster. And I don't know if that's a sustainable way to win games in the conference.
So you said they're a poor man's Signetti with the JMU thing, and it's just might not work.
Yeah.
And look, this is what they had: Harsin and now Freeze, and now we're here to Golish, and it's just been so much turmoil down there, and just Tennessee went through that with Dooley and
Pruitt and Butch Jones.
Yeah, that's kind of where Auburn is right now.
Yeah. What about at the top? Do you agree with Ole Miss being number 1 on this list? I waffle on it myself. Yeah.
I got to see more out of Golding. I mean, great, and you're set up where you are, but will they sustain it? And we'll find out real quick.
And one of the things, when Ohio State was really good a few years ago, people would lob the, insult at Ryan Day. Well, he started on 3rd. Pete Golding literally started on a playoff team. You can't get in a better starting spot than Pete Golding did.
Yeah.
He's 2-1 as a head coach. He's 1-1 against Power 4 teams. Like, being able to win games in that situation is a lot different than leading a program year-round, being the full-time boss, handling the roster in the offseason, and doing all of those things that Lane was very good at for all of the faults he has.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. And I don't know where I was surprised that we never know how long Caleb DeBoer is going to be at Alabama. First of all, we don't. Let's be honest.
We don't. I'm high. I think people forget too quickly that this dude played in a national title game 3 years ago at Washington. Recently he was in a title game. He's good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but so you never want to be the guy that follows the legend,
man. And you better get it done at Alabama. This losing 4 games, hey man, that's not gonna fly. So if he just gets tired of all of the nonstop scrutiny and just say, hey, I can go succeed without all this somewhere else. The minute he leaves, everybody in Baton Rouge knows Lane's like got his bags packed for Tuscaloosa, right? I mean,
the way I understand, there are some people at Bama in power positions that don't want that to happen. So, yeah.
So okay, will they get if they get their way, or they have more pull, or I guess kind of like people in positions of power at Kentucky didn't want Bruce Pearl to be interviewed.
I didn't know that, but okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of thing, because Kentucky basketball, Alabama football at the same level of, so okay, but if Lane had his way, I thought if DeBoer had gotten fired last year, I thought he might not even coach LSU. He might just go ahead and leave for Tuscaloosa last year. But
the one I'll be curious about, say if and when DeBoer takes another job, how much of a push does Alabama put on DeMeco Ryans to try to get him from the Texans? I think that'll be an interesting one.
Ooh, yeah,
because alumni there.
And, he got a nice resume.
And maybe he wants to stay in the NFL. That's reasonable, but who knows?
Yeah, he's got to get. And look, they started off 0-3 this year. They started off bad and still got to playoffs, won that division, and
I do think, and he's resisted it so far. I think Alabama and Georgia could be the two jobs that Dan Lanning would leave Oregon for, being a former assistant at both of them. Now, if you're him, I don't know why you'd like, your pressure is going to be way higher at those two schools, but maybe that happens. I don't know.
Yeah, it could. Anything can happen now, but Indiana just won a national championship. That doesn't tell you.
And another one, and this guy's at kind of a lane in his own right of polarizing opinions. I think USC is going to be pretty good this year. We know Lincoln Riley will listen to anybody. Does someone make him a whale offer if they have a good season, and maybe he says, "Oh, I'll take the paycheck and start the clock over." I don't know.
He might, if he's got a good season, he might walk off on it. Yeah.
And a few years ago, I would have said former O-line coach Mario Cristobal is a logical candidate for Saban, or to replace him at Bama. I don't know that he leaves his alma mater, though. That might be too much of a stretch at this point.
Yeah, right now. I mean, I don't know what these guys think. I'm not in his head, but him and Clark Lee to do what they've done at their alma mater, I think it doesn't get any better.
No, I know. So I go on Locked On Vandy quite a bit with Corey, and that conversation came up a lot. And I told him my thought was the only chance you have of Clark Lee leaving is if Marcus Freeman goes to the NFL and Notre Dame would have maybe wanted Lee, because that's where he was D coordinator before.
Yeah.
It'll be so. I guess our initial topic was, who would you have as the preseason power rankings? For me, I would have Ole Miss and Texas 1 and 2. I just don't know which I would have at 1 right now.
I still might put Georgia up there.
They return a lot next year.
It's hard to go against Georgia, and Texas finally, Arch has a year under his belt. He knows what it's like now.
And he was throwing him the last month of the year. He was good.
Yeah. So
they got Cam Coleman, and you got Rayleigh Brown and Hollywood Smothers running back.
So can Sark handle them being up there from start to finish is the thing. So I probably put Ole Miss maybe 3rd, just because Pete is inexperienced in that seat. It's just you can't have experience until you get it.
True.
And he just doesn't have it. And if he does it for a couple of years and then he's proven that he can handle it all, then 2 years from now he might be the number 1 spot.
Well, we'd have the same top 3, just different orders. And even though that list had Oklahoma 3, A&M 5, I might put A&M 4 and Oklahoma 5. I think A&M is going to be pretty good again. I think Elko, like he did at Duke, you built a good foundation through the trenches, so I don't see a big drop off from them.
Yeah, I'm inclined to kind of bump Oklahoma down a notch or two.
Okay.
As well, I'm with you there, and A&M, we're they sleeping on them. 11-1,
Yes.
and I feel like I'm sleeping on them. I do, and no disrespect. I feel like I'm kind of overlooking them. They're just in the weeds, even though they had such a great year.
Yeah, and with them, I don't know, and it shouldn't matter, but they've started way better than they finished the last 2 years. You know, you've lost the last game to Texas both years, but then they threw up a dud against Miami in the playoffs. The offense couldn't get going.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, last year, they lose 3 of their last 4, something like that. So,
yeah.
But I think they're going to be good, and that roster has talent on it.
Yeah, sure does. So here,
look, we're got a couple minutes left. I'm going to ask you 2 questions that I ask all the viewers. In the SEC, going into next year, what head coach is on the hottest seat, do you think? I have no problem in saying it might be Shane Beamer. I think they're going to be good. I don't think he gets it, but if they're bad, he will get it.
Yeah. Heupel could fool around and you know, this is year 5 or 6 for him.
Yeah.
You made the playoff year before last, and then last year 8-4.
This is year 6. Yeah, year 6 for
Heupel. Yeah. Now the quarterback deal. How's he going to handle that? Is it going to be a freshman? How's he? They're kind of, especially his offense on the road, his offense at home, the whole analytics would. I don't know if it's going to be Beamer level, but he might be starting to feel some pressure.
And that team could be like Auburn was last year, or Oklahoma State, in a sense where they're pretty good at a lot of positions, but they're really bad at quarterback. I don't know who the QB is going to be for Tennessee next year.
Yeah.
So
and
in his offense, it's really important. And anybody's is, especially.
It might not get to Beamer. I might be stretching it, but I'm sure he's going to feel pressure. There's no way he's not going to feel pressure at Tennessee. Beamer might be the leader in the clubhouse, though, because everybody else made coaching changes.
Yeah, exactly. That's part of it. Like, you're not going to fire a 1 or 2nd year guy.
Yeah.
And to me, those 2 guys are different scenarios, because if Shane Beamer gets fired, he's going to be a special teams coordinator somewhere or an assistant head coach. If Josh Heupel gets fired, he gets a head coaching job somewhere else. Like, they're in 2 different spots, I think, now. And that might largely be predicated on people view Heupel as really good at coaching quarterbacks and on offense.
And what Virginia Tech, I guess Beamer's name came up when that came open because of his
I think
dad.
If he would have wanted, he probably could have had it early on. But why would you leave the SEC for that at this point?
Yeah. Has anybody else made a run at Heupel, though, when these carousels happen? That we have seen,
No, not that I know of. The one I had wondered about, and it timed out with Tennessee had their best year under him after Michigan won the title and Harbaugh left, but they just promoted more from within. So job really never got open, but I thought that would have made sense at the time.
Yeah. So,
but considering Heupel's background, it'll happen. Or he would get another job, I think.
And now he's got a coaching tree with Goldish now and that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure does. It's another good point. Yeah. And then, so that's the hot seat one. The second question I always ask, and makes people think a little bit more, what coach in the SEC do you think is the most likely to get a better job or to leave for a different job? It's tough because with the G5 conferences and smaller schools, it makes sense. Where with SEC and Big Ten, when I ask it, well, there aren't a lot of better jobs because of the nature of those 2 conferences being better than everybody else. So it's tougher to think. My answer is probably Eli Drinkwitz because of how solid he is, and I think it would, I don't think it's a stretch that he would get a blue blood or a better job at some point, but curious who you would say for this one.
A better, wow.
Yeah. What coach might profile as someone who would get, a blue blood or a better job if they have success?
He might be the only candidate. Like,
yeah,
he's been there.
But I've asked this one to other people, and a few have agreed with me. Some have said, along the lines of what you mentioned before, being a Midwest guy, they said they could see DeBoer taking a Big Ten job, or someone said Sark going to the NFL, which it's not exactly what I said, but it's like, oh, okay, leaving for a different job. Yeah, that's fair.
Because everybody else is already at a blue blood. I mean, Venables is at a blue blood. Sark is at a blue blood. The other is at a blue blood. So,
the other one, similar to Clark Lee. Clark Lee could be an answer for this too, I think. But I think Clark Lee and Mike Elko would both be potential Notre Dame candidates if Marcus Freeman would leave, because they were both D coordinators there. So either of them, maybe. I don't know. It's an interesting one to think about.
I guess by default, I got to go with Drink.
Okay.
Because didn't they just extend him last year before? Yeah. Which doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. If he wants to go, he's gone. But as far as going, because Missouri's not a blue blood, and as far as going somewhere that is a blue blood, I'd have to agree with you and go.
And we'd heard his name so much. This year was Florida, Auburn, Penn State. We heard his name all over the place.
Yeah, sure it is. And Penn State, the first one to be open, was the last one to close.
Yes,
crazy.
It was. Crazy. Yeah, but Vinny, we've reached the end of our hour together. But I want to thank you for coming on the show. It was a great episode. For all of you viewers out there, you saw the ticker going for most of the show, and then putting it down here, you can follow Vinny at these different sites. BleavInKentucky at Vinny Hardy. Then what was the other? You said you did another show, Vinny. I didn't take that one in here.
Yeah, Cats Talk Wednesday at Cats Talk WED on Twitter. The first podcast I started, kept it going, and hosted with Terry Brown every Wednesday evening, about 6:30 to 8.
Awesome.
And that's what doing that was able to apply and get with Believe and do Believe in Kentucky, and been going with both of them ever since. But that's how I kind of started and was able to get into Believe and other things and all the other fun stuff. Been privileged to do, man. It's cool.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Yeah. So just want to say thank you for being here, and everybody out there watching, appreciate having you, and look forward to seeing you on episode 33 soon.
Thank you so much, Mike. I enjoyed it, man.